Well, I've just started the recording. I forgot to start the recording. We opened the meeting minutes. David seconded the motion. We said the Pledge of Allegiance. Now we're recording. And I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda of the Police Commission.
David, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would like to, Chief, do you have any announcements?
Yeah, just a few. The first is that we are once again participating in the No Shave November initiative for cancer. And we have, I think, 10 of our members that are signed up for that. You'll see some of us that can grow facial hair that they are. I, for one, cannot, so I'm not. So we're doing that. I'm also just wanted to announce a slight revision to our monthly conversations with the police. Just obviously due to the weather, we're not going to be holding them outdoors, and I really don't want to hold any indoors. So what I'm going to be doing for the next 4 months, 5 months is really targeting those discussions with specific groups, and giving, trying to meet with them and answer questions that they may have of the police department. So that's going to be how I'll be doing these monthly meetings. And I've got a few that are lined up already, and then we'll resume the monthly conversations outdoors. I'm hoping in April. That's my plan at this point. And then the last thing I have in terms of announcements is that we just issued did the department awards. We were initially supposed to have our department awards dinner in April. We were going to try to do that prior to Chief Schneider's retirement, but we obviously with COVID haven't been able to, and we held out hope, but we didn't. So we ended up just giving out the awards to the individual members while they were working. We had a couple of awards. Exceptional duty citations were issued to Officer Bunce, Officer Mitchell, Dispatchers Caputo, Sergeant Koch, for the Plaza Diner homicide that occurred in June of 2019. And then unit citation awards were also given to Officers Bunce, Mitchell, Dispatcher Caputo, Sergeant Koch, Detective Sergeant Butler, Detective Judge, and Chief Schneider for that incident as well. We awarded a life-saving award for Sergeant Quigley, and we also awarded a meritorious police investigation award to Officers Yant, Bernhardsen, Detective Sergeant Sutton, Detective Sergeant Butler for their work on a vehicular assault. We awarded honorable discharge for Officer Knoth. He retired last year. An educational award citation to Chief Schneider, and that's about it. And that's all I have for the announcements. So thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to open the floor for public comment, and trying to keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you raise your hand, we will call on you. I know Eve talked to the chief. You'd like to make a comment, and you can either do that now or later on after Officer Cisco makes a comment.
I could go after Cisco. I think that's what we were discussing, if he's still fine with that.
Okay.
Easy, either way.
Sure. And so if anyone else has any comments, I'll open the floor. Dan's trying to get in. We're having some technical issues here. So just.
Hey, can you hear me, Neil?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Great.
Okay, I'm good. Sorry about that.
Great. So we're all here. So if no one else has any comments, we're going to go into executive session to discuss personnel, and
We can do that at the end. I
We'll do
don't
that
have
at the
a
end.
lot, so if you want to do that at the end, Supervisor, that's fine.
Okay,
too.
yeah, we'll do it then. So I'd like to I'd like to move on to number 2. So there's a public statement from Officer Robert Cisco. And I think I've seen Officer Cisco here, and I'd like to hand it over to you. So,
Can you guys hear me?
yes,
All right, how you doing?
good.
Good evening, Supervisor. Good evening, Chief. Good evening, Eve. Those are all the people I can see on the screen. I apologize if I don't say hi to everybody else. So, before I read this, I would just like to ask that that people kind of have an open mind and an open heart with everything that has transpired over the last couple months. It's been eye-opening, to say the least, and I will read my apology, and then, like I said, Eve has some things that she'd like to add too, if it's possible, if she could speak after me. Okay. My apology is actually in several parts, so I'm gonna read it in sections, if that's all right. Okay. So this is to the LGBTQ plus community, the town and village of New Paltz residents, as well as its elected officials. I would like to begin by saying that my apology may be lengthy, but this is my first opportunity to publicly address the community about my actions. And I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker, and I feel to be transparent and genuine, the quality of my words would suffer if they were cut short. So please bear with me, as this letter is truly coming from my heart. To the New Paltz Police Department and all law enforcement, I apologize if my actions have made the difficult job we already do that much more so. And a faithful servant of the law for much of my adult life, and more than a third of my life in general. I took an oath, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I should have considered if my actions would have affected us all. I make no excuses, but understand that I am a human being. I am fallible, and one of the most important values that is drilled into you in the police academy was that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we are strong because we are together. My desire to be an individual weakened the bonds that bind us, and for that I am truly sorry. My actions were mine and mine alone, and my brothers and sisters in blue should not have had to suffer for it, and I apologize. To the town and the village of New Paltz residents and the greater New Paltz community, I have many words. First, I've always put you before me, and I truly do mean that. I remember the day I was sworn in, and I genuinely believed that I had found a home here. As I worked more and I got to know the people of this town, I found it harder and harder to not be emotionally vested in your lives. I watched your children grow up. I've been there for life-altering moments, both good and bad. I performed CPR on you. I've held your hand while in an ambulance. I've caught bats in your living room with assorted weapons. I've helped you get into rehab. I've had beers with you downtown, taken pictures with you. I've embraced you. And when you lost loved ones, I was there. This is still who I am. This is Officer Bob Cisco. But I have grown and I've changed in many, many ways through this entire experience. My lack of judgment and ignorance hurt many in our community, and it made people feel unsafe. And that is a word that has definitely hit home with me. I even attracted national attention to our quiet town, and not in the way that I had. Not that I had hoped to attract any national attention, but not in any good way. And for that, I am also truly sorry. The last apology I would like to make, if you guys could give me just 2 seconds. It's a little bit more lengthier, and I didn't want to have all this paper in front of me, if that's all right. So may not be able to read this with the video. Can you guys still see me?
No.
No, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure you can hear me. Like I said, the last apology is the most important apology. Like I said, this is going to be the most lengthy one. Finally, and most importantly, to the LGBTQ community, I would like to say that your words did not fall on deaf ears. I listened. And this apology, I would like to specifically address the transgender community, because although I understand the importance of the movement as a whole, I feel an apology would not be sincere if not specifically to the group intended. Sometimes there comes a time in a person's life where something so drastic and life-changing happens that it literally overloads their senses. And I felt your senses overload. I watched as you all commented and posted, and I deserved it. Ignorance is no excuse was a popular quote by my father growing up, but the lesson would not truly be learned until it was too late. What struck me the most was how unsafe people in our community felt after hearing my words. As a marginalized person in this country, even though that doesn't give me any insight into other marginalized people at all, but I should have been more sensitive to others who are also going through a struggle. Unfortunately, I was ignorant and I was hurtful. My Blackness does not define me, but it is who I am. I did not choose it. And this was how it was explained to me by a transgender associate of mine who I worked with for years. I am hesitant to say friend because he too was extremely hurt by my actions and words. He said that he always knew that he was a quote unquote he. But then he said, imagine looking in the mirror and seeing someone else, someone who at times is disgusted you to be. And that statement stayed on my mind. I've never discriminated or treated anyone differently because of their race or gender identity. But I realized that I wasn't, not me not being discriminatory, but I wasn't also trying to learn or understand. I was actually ashamed when I found out about the horrors that transgender people in general had suffered because of people who didn't understand them. But I just want to let you guys know that I am not one of those people. I have spent a good portion of my time away from the department to, try to learn and understand not only why my words are so hurtful, but also what I can do to repair your trust in me. 20 hours of community service is, there's no, that's nothing. That's a part of the agreement, but I know it can't make up for what I've done. So I've gone above and beyond that. I've began my own dialogue with the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm really, really trying, and I'm going to show you guys. As a police officer, one of the most important distinctions I must make is determining if someone is beyond my help or if they can be saved. And I'm asking for your help as a community. My apologies mean nothing without my actions to back it up. And I want you to give me the opportunity to learn and to hear your voices and your opinions. My goal in the video was to open a dialogue so we could start talking. It was ignorant, it was misguided, insensitive, hurtful, and delegitimizing to many in our community. And it did cost me friends and family, but the silver lining is that it obviously helped me grow as a person. It has given me a better understanding to our community, and the power that I have as an officer and the responsibility that accompanies it. And I know that I will be a better police officer because of this. Moving forward, like I said, my actions will speak louder than words. And it will take time. It's an uphill battle, but you know, I have already started to do what I can to repair the damage I've done, not only in the community but just in general. And you know, I can only just start day by day to gain you guys' trust back, and I can promise that. Um, so with that being said, that is my apology. Um, there's a lot of other issues that have come up because of my video, and I feel that the type of person I am as an officer, a protector, that I can't just sit idly by and not address these issues. I've spoken with the chief, I've spoken with members of the community, I've spoken with Eve, who's going to speak after me. And, you know, I have a lot of great ideas, and I would like to use my little bit of fame or infamy, or whatever you want to call it, to do good for a cause that I believe that this video drew a lot of light and attention to. One of the things I learned is that, you know, the T and transgender has kind of been riding the coattails of the LGBTQ plus movement, in that I'm not saying that they're not accepted, because I'm not gonna talk about nothing I know about. Eve will actually be able to speak more on it, but there is a problem. New Paltz was supposed to be this center for people of color and people that are otherwise vilified and not welcome in the communities that they came from. And, you know, transgender people should be included in that. A lot of transgender people come here for help and they don't find anything. So with that being said, I have a lot of good ideas. I pitched some of them to the town. I hope the community is open to hearing my ideas. And, you know, I can only take it one day at a time. I can be myself. I am sorry. I wanted to apologize for a long time. I think a lot of people knew that, people that knew me. And I did apologize, you know, but I mean, this is my first time that the public could hear an apology from me. There are other issues, like I said, that I would like to hear from the public. Anything that I can try to help to address, talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eve, would you like to speak?
Sure. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I know many of you from just around town from all of these years. Many of you may remember that I had offered to go out for a burger and a beer with Officer Cisco back in June, because I truly believe in education over just canceling. What you might not know is we actually did have our meeting. But although to help educate about the trans and LGBTQ plus community, I decided to change it to Eggs Benedict over brunch. When my wife and I went to met with him, to say our anxiety was high would to be an understatement. I only knew him as my enemy and somebody who stood directly opposed to my existence. Who I found sitting across the table from me was completely different than who I imagined. We sat and talked, and in credit to Rob, he mainly listened. And yes, I now refer to him as Rob. Our quick brunch turned into a 4-hour meeting. And we have continued our conversations over the phone to this day. We have both really found we have far more in common than different. I told him, ironically, 51 years ago, neither of us might have been allowed to sit at that table. We need to see our struggles are intertwined together. We discussed one of the biggest challenges that face the trans community is education about who we are as people. I honestly think that was one of the biggest problems that led to Rob's now infamous rap. I have read stats that about 90% of people now know someone who is gay or lesbian, but only about 30% of people know someone who is trans. By the way, this week is coincidentally Trans Awareness Week. Tomorrow is Trans Day of Remembrance, to remember and recognize all the trans people who are killed each year for doing nothing more than simply existing. I personally experience stares on an almost daily basis. I've been ridiculed, screamed at, insulted at by everyone from my old friends that I lost simply for coming out to total strangers just walking past me on the street. Transphobia is real and it does kill. But I am proud to say that I really do think Rob is learning. I do honestly feel that he is trying to change. He does seem to want to work to make himself better and to help the community be better. And I believe that this is extremely important. I also want to make sure that my views that I express are my feelings. I'm an individual. I do not speak for the entire trans or LGBT community, as no one person can do that. But at the end of the day, this incident did hurt a lot of people. And I know a lot of people will need to see actions to help make this better and not just words. I also think this rap unfortunately gave bigots the sense that if a police officer can say these words, then it's okay for anybody to. And well, let me make this clear. It is not okay for anyone to say them. We were hurt as a community from this. But something I think this whole series of events really highlighted to me is with the town of New Paltz itself. A town which is a champion of LGBTQ plus rights, a town that literally started marriage equality in this country. But unfortunately, in reality, we're really only a mirage to many in the LGBTQ plus community. We talk a good talk. We have done great things. We hold a pride parade that is the envy of towns around us. But when I first came out of the closet after 38 years, strange considering I'm still in my late 20s, I looked around and realized I had nowhere to go. I had no home base to find the community. I had no way to contact anyone else like me. The best I could do is wait for one day in June that would come and go. If I want to find a center, I need to drive to Kingston or Newburgh, something not easily done for a lot of people due to either time or finances or a list of whole other reasons. When the town suggested setting up a review board and getting an LGBTQ plus representative, they had nowhere to turn in New Paltz, and they started looking to Newburgh or Kingston again. How is that the case in a town like New Paltz? How is that we have nowhere to go outside of that one day a year in June, which we didn't even get this year? I think this incident has made it crystal clear that we need something in this town. We need a place for people to meet where people who are kicked out of their homes for simply coming out of the closet can get resources. A place where people who feel they have nowhere left to turn can turn to. A place where people can find our community. A place where people can go and talk and just be among friends and like-minded people. I'm not about to get into the stats of trans suicide or homelessness, but I could promise you, if you take the time to do some research, it will break your heart. How do we even start a center? I have no idea, but that's the beauty of a community. And I'm not just talking about the LGBTQ plus community. I'm talking about our community as a whole. We need to find a way to show that we are not just a town who says we welcome trans people, but we are a town who truly supports them, a town willing to help some of our most marginalized citizens, a town where bigotry has no home. This whole ordeal has been very trying on myself and many others. What I can hope for is that something good can come out of this. So I'm asking people to stop fighting, to come together, and to make something happen. 51 years ago, a Black trans woman threw a brick at a cop because trans women were being arrested simply for being out in public. That incident at Stonewall started a movement that is alive today. I'm hoping that maybe our next chapter in this movement could have started over Eggs Benedict. I will leave you with the words from one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Let's build a lighthouse. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eve.
Thank you.
Uh, Okay, so anyone else has anything to say? We can move on to the monthly report.
I would
Chief?
like to say that was
Oh.
truly moving. So thank you, both of you.
I agree with Julie. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. Thank you, Officer Cisco, for digging deep and going deep into your heart and changing the way that you are. It's really tough to do. And thank you, Eve, for your beautiful words. Very moving. So thanks for being with us.
I'm so happy that New Paltz is walking the walk with restorative justice, and grateful to you both for being a part of that. And I bet all of us would like to know more about getting this center. So definitely to be continued.
Right. Chief, do you want to give the monthly report?
Yep. Hard to follow that. Sorry. So in terms of the monthly report, couple things just to talk about in terms of personnel. I know I said this at the prior budget meeting, but I think it's important to say here that we have paused our background investigations on 2 part-time police officer candidates. We're holding off on anything until 2021 as part of the the budget freeze. So we are we're holding off on, I think, two part-time officers and a dispatcher until 2021, and then I'll present that to the board about the permission to move forward once we in the January meeting probably. On my report, just want to highlight the completion of the annual training for sexual harassment. Our policy and training materials were all sent off to Jean, so she's able to hold on to those for the annual certification. And that we're all set with that and the workplace violence. In terms of the detectives monthly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the cases that were investigated, highlights that are there. The first one that's mentioned was an assault. It was related to a domestic incident. The individual in that case had been indicted by the grand jury. He was actually arrested yesterday with the help of the Ulster County Emergency Services Unit. So I would like to thank the sheriff and all the members that are part of the ESU. This was an individual who is a person of interest in multiple shootings in the city of Kingston. This was a situation that I'm really proud of the officers in terms of their handling of the initial incident, their discretion, just their demeanor, the way they conducted themselves, using de-escalation. I would highly encourage all the police commissioners, if you have an opportunity in the next week or two, make an appointment with me, because I would like you to see the video from the initial incident that took place on Main Street and how our officers handled themselves. But this was a really bad guy, and we ended up using the emergency services unit, and he was picked up yesterday, and he is been lodged in Ulster County Jail. So it was a great case, but a lot of work that the detectives did. Working with the district attorney's office on this. So I wanted to highlight that. The other one is in relation to an individual who had committed multiple burglaries, not just in New Paltz, but in the surrounding community. He was arrested and charged, and has been, been remanded to the jail. This was an individual who actually had committed a prior burglary in 2012 here in New Paltz, and was arrested based upon investigation and the collection of DNA evidence by our detectives back then as well. So did some really good work with this, a great collaborative efforts with the Sheriff's Department, the Town of Lloyd Police Department, State Police. You know, it was a lot of time and a lot of effort that was put in by not just the detectives, but even the officers in terms of checking vacant home residences to make sure that they were not being broken into. So I'm really proud of everybody in relation to those two cases, especially that I wanted to talk about or highlight. I don't know if there's any questions about either of those at this point. So we had one letter of commendation this month. It was for Officer Yant. It was sent via email. Officer Yant had assisted an individual who was in crisis. This letter was received. It was sent to us by their parent. Just wanted to thank Officer Yant for his work in helping them on this occasion, and that is just to let them know that you know that they have that they're working with mental health providers to make sure that this person is being cared for. But just wanted to say thank you for his efforts. We have there was 2 defensive action reports. We have 1 incident involving 2 defensive action reports. This was a mental health call that we responded to, and this occurred back on October 25th, about 3:50 in the morning. The individual was a 23-year-old white female, approximately 5'9" tall, 135 pounds. The officers had responded for a welfare check. They were speaking with this individual who was in and out of, I guess, consciousness, and at one point went to fall back, but then lunged forward at the officers. The individual was directed to the ground, handcuffed, and then seated right back up and turned over to the rescue squad. Again, if you have the opportunity, I would like you to try and come in so I can show you some of the video from this. This actually goes right to the training. I know that, you know, David, you had come to. I was so impressed. This is one of our newer officers, and just her recognition from the moment she's on scene in terms of knowing that this person was someone in crisis, calling for an ambulance, beginning dialogue with the individual. Force it became necessary, but what I also thought, for me, I thought was great was that another part of the training that we had recently dealt with repositioning individuals when we take them into custody, making sure they're seated, that they are able to breathe, just spot on, even referring to the training in relation to her partner. I mean, both officers, it was great to see. So I would, I definitely would encourage the commissioners to come look at that if they have the opportunity to. But that is the one use of force incident that we had for this month. In terms of personnel, we had 2 resignations this month. They were included. Those letters of resignation were included in your packet. I'm not sure if there's any questions with any of that. I would like to just highlight a couple things with the monthly training report. The first is that month of October, all the officers and supervisors completed our fall firearms defensive tactics training cycle. It's an 8-hour training cycle completed at the range. I think we did it in 4 or 5 iterations. And I know several of you had attended. I apologize that, we had Alex and Juliet, you were there as well. And we had a couple people from the Reform Reinvention Committee that also attended. We not only did the firearms DT training, but we integrated some CIT and some mental health training with that as well. So also to note that officers Marsh and Town have completed their 12-week department FTO program. So they're out on patrol by themselves, doing really good work. And so we're happy about that. October 19th through the 23rd, Officer James Bernhardson and Lieutenant Butler completed the 40-hour crisis intervention team training. This was held up at the Ulster County Law Enforcement Center. Officer Kraus is actually one of the instructors up there. So with their completing this course, just 40% of our personnel are now certified in CIT. People talk about the de-escalation component of this. And the other important aspect of this training is making the officers or law enforcement aware of the mental health resources that are available to us should the need arise and when we are handling calls, and how we can better make use of those. So I think it's a great training. It's important training, and our goal is to have 100% of our personnel certified by the end of next year, if possible. So we're looking forward to that. The only other thing on my training report that I wanted to highlight is that on October 28th and 29th, I attended some training put on by the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police and the New York State Sheriff's Association, primarily focusing on police reform and reinvention, and was able to pass some of this information on to our own reinvention committee, to have some material that we can work with on that as well. And the last thing I just want to I included in the packet is our letter of approval for the Sharps kiosk through this New York State Department of Health. We're just waiting on the materials. There's still a back order. I spoke with them earlier this week. They're hoping maybe by the first week in December, we'll be able to have those materials. We have a couple of memorandums of agreement signed. One is with Woodland Pond, where we'll be able to dispose of Sharps. So now members of the community will be able to dispose of unused, unwanted Sharps, as well as drugs at the police station. The one-stop shop, and we'll have both of those drop boxes in our lobby for anyone that needs them. And that is all I have in the report. If anybody has any questions.
Well, just a comment and a question, Chief. First of all, thank you for inviting me to that the defensive action trainings. Those trainings were really interesting to see. First time I've been to something like that, so I appreciate that. The question I have is, I thought I saw in the report something about officers being injured on one of those trainings. Was that the case?
So we had we had two members that were injured in training. Nothing too serious, but paperwork was filled out related to that. Yep.
Neil, you're on
I'm
mute.
muted. Yeah, I know it tells me, but it takes a long time. I wonder why everybody's looking at me. So that's all we have for the police commission other than executive session. And so I'm going to, I'll make a motion to go into executive session, and then we'll send everyone into the, we can send everyone into the waiting room. I can also try this new thing, but we probably won't do it. It's not worth the effort. I figured out a way we can do breakout rooms. But we'll do that another time, but we'll just do it the way we normally do it. So I'm like to make a motion to go into executive session and with the chief. And all in favor?
Aye.
And so I'm going to send everyone into the waiting room and then pause the recording. And so don't take offense.
And then we'll be back to start the town board meeting.
Yep. So,
I think still recording, Neil. I think.
yeah, I'm just trying to put people in the waiting room. Some people keep getting out, so I'm going to pause the recording. And I've started the recording again, and I am going to admit everyone back in. It is 7:23. And I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session and no actions are being taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would like to make a motion to adjourn the police commission meeting.
Second, David?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to open the November 19th, 2020 New Paltz Town Board meeting.
Second, Alex.
And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have the flag anymore. Pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
And so I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second, David?
And for discussion, I would like to remove item 6. It's a duplicate. We have it on there twice. And with that, I'd like to, all in favor to approve the meeting agenda as amended?
Second, David?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And announcements, the town offices will be closed Thursday, November 26th and Friday, November 27th for Thanksgiving holiday. And I have no other announcements beyond that. Other than, we have been, we've been talking about this, case numbers are going up, right? We've had some posts. Now is not the time to let our guard down. We put some stuff on the Facebook page, the emergency operations page. Numbers now in New Paltz are the same as they were in the spring. If people remember back to, April and May, people were scrubbing their canned goods when they brought them home from the grocery store, and there was no toilet paper, and we're going to the grocery store every 2 weeks because, we're being extra careful. And if you look at the graphs, we were averaging about 1.8 cases per day back in, from the beginning of, from March until the beginning of May, we're averaging 1.7 cases per day for the last, few weeks. So and with the cases that were added today, we're well beyond that. And so they weren't all added just today. They were probably over the last 2 weeks, but they all got added today because of, accounting errors. But so we're probably at a higher rate than we were in March and May. And so now's not the time to let your guard down. Like I've been, just from personally, instead of going to the grocery store every 2 weeks, I'll stop in and just grab something real quick. So, that's just an example of how we've gotten a little too comfortable. And, the second wave is already here, is coming. And I think it's, we need to all get ready and act like it's spring again, even though it's the fall. And so that's just my announcement that now's not the time to let the guard down. The county has, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of add a real sobering thought. I spent a lot of time with the numbers today, and I looked at the active cases that we have in Ulster County and compared it to where we were the last time we hit around 500. And then I actually pulled the newspaper the day that we were at this point a few months ago, which was early April. The last time we had this many active cases in Ulster County, the cover of the paper was about how we were running out of hospital capacity and the county was looking to build out a surge hospital because we were literally about to run out of space. And that was a very dramatic and stressful moment for everyone. And I don't want to be rude to our neighbors here. I don't think people think of it the same way. There is some things that are different. We know a lot more about this, but at our current trajectory, I get that we're saying we need to remember what it was like in the spring. I think it's actually going to be worse than that based on how we're going and how quickly we are climbing. And people just need to be aware from that from a health standpoint and frankly, to just emotionally and mentally prepare for that as well, because I don't think it's going to be pretty if we don't make drastic changes immediately, and especially with the holidays coming as well. I don't mean to be a totally Debbie Downer here. I just think we need to be very honest about where we are and where we're going.
Dan Downer.
No,
Yeah.
Dan, I think you're right. I think we all kept thinking that, at least, I did, like, we all knew the second wave was going to come. We've known since, 1918 that there was going to be a second wave, right? Since before this started, we've always known that's the way it happens. That's just the science behind it. It gets cold, we go inside, we, spend more time, with people. And that's what's happening now. And I think that we need to be reminded of that. And that's what we're trying to do tonight, to remind people that, that the numbers are bad and they're getting worse, and things are going to get worse before they get better. And so it's time to, to get back in that mode again. So.
Just would add a separate announcement, but the hospitals, friends of mine who work in local hospitals are definitely feeling the intensity at the hospitals already. And so let's stay out of the hospital, folks. No one wants to be there. And so they're already getting full. The other announcement I want to make is that the New Paltz Turkey Trot is not happening in person, as you can imagine, but family will need support, especially this season. So please see what you can do to help. If you're usually attending that event, don't let that stop you from making your donation and helping family feed our community.
David, the Turkey Trot is virtual, so you can actually sign in and you can run it virtually anytime during the week of and after Thanksgiving. So put on your running shoes and run at any time and give the money to those guys. And you still, I think, get a t-shirt. So
Alex, you still register for the Turkey Trot. You just do it virtually.
right. Exactly.
Does that mean you run at your computer, or does that mean you do the
No,
route?
you actually do the route and you just
Okay.
run it yourself at your own
With your
time.
friends?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
That's great.
Thanks for that correction, Alex.
Yep.
All right.
I
And
think
so,
on Facebook, I believe I did see that too, Alex, on Facebook, but I wasn't sure how it worked. So I believe that you can find out about it on Facebook, right, Alex? Is that
Yep, you can.
is
Or
Unison a sponsor?
yeah.
all right. And so I'd like to open, if we're no more announcements, open up public input. And so if anyone has public comments, raise your hand. We'll call on you in order. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we want to make sure everyone is heard. We're running about a half an hour behind with the meeting. But if anyone has anything to say, please raise your hand and we will call you in order.
Judy Jaffe raising her hand.
Okay. Don't see that. So go ahead. Yeah, I'm having trouble muting and
hear me?
unmuting people. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read a letter, okay? This is, all of you have received this letter, and it's a short letter dated November 16th, 2020. Dear Supervisor Betez and members of the town board, we are residents of New Paltz and write to request that you appoint Amy Donnelly and John Gatto to the ZBA. Ms. Donnelly attended the November ZBA meeting as an observer and demonstrated her zoning experience and commitment to open and transparent deliberations. John Gatto is chair of the Clean Water and Open Space Commission and has extensive experience in mapping, zoning, and most importantly, making site visits to evaluate the impact of decisions. Sincerely, we are Kitty Brown, Jackie and Lou Brownstein, Catherine Gray, Bob Hughes, retired ZBA chair and planning board member, and not written in, retired Planning Board Chair and Planning Board Member. Lindsay Du Bois Kraus, Judy Joffe, Amy Kletter, Steffi Morrison, Alex Passas, Barbara Peterson, Judy Reichler, Roger Roloff, Wendy Rudder, Sherry Runk, Cheryl Silver, Ron Simon, David Smith, Dan and Jan Stivers, Judy Swallow, Robin Torres, Carol and Ron Zuckerman. Thank you for letting me read.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? I don't see any raised hands. Okay, if not, we will move on to the first item. It's the ZBA vacancy review. I'll invite Lenny Loza, Chair of the ZBA, to address the board about your recommendations. If I can find you here, I think you're here.
Len, could you just unmute yourself?
I'm trying to, if anyone else can do it, Mike.
I'm having a hard time.
Oh, I unmuted him, now I muted him.
Hold on. Maybe it takes a minute to get, okay, Len, you should be able to be heard.
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It was by a unanimous vote at our, I believe it was the October meeting where three members of the board, Catherine Fuller, Stephen Esposito, and myself, made the recommendation for Amy Donnelly and Mike Calamano. Our recommendations were primarily based on three conditions. Both have extensive experience in zoning. Amy Donnelly from Cooperstown, New York, was on the board for 2 to 2.5 years. Mike Calamano has over 20 years of experience, and I'm quite sure you've all seen his resumes with regard to his experience in this community. Both are quite familiar with the seeker process and what it is about and its regards to our community. Again, both express developmental and community concerns with regard to their interest in filling in this position. The other applicants were good, but we felt more than anything that based on their years of experience, they would be an excellent addition to our zoning board. I thank you for your interest. Thank you for your concern. And again, I thank you for the time letting me speak. Does anyone have any particular questions?
First, yes, thank you, Len. I really appreciate you being here and speaking on behalf of the ZBA and for sending all of the letters of interest and resumes, which are part of the packet, and all board members have had a chance to review. And, just if anyone has any questions for Len, please.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve the unanimous recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals, as Len has stated it, and appoint Amy Donnelly and Mike Calamano to the 2 vacant positions.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
I would like to make some, have some discussion. I'm interested in other people's feelings as well on this issue. I'm a huge fan of John Gatto, and when I heard that he was interested, I was absolutely, immediately thought that he would be fantastic. I think his value, time and again, he has shown up to our meetings. Obviously, he's the chair of the CWAS, but he has shown up to our town board meetings, Amanda, his wife, often with him, to speak, regarding the environmental issues that have come up very, very consistently. So I feel like his values are reflected, his values reflect ours as well, and the values of the town. For example, when Janelle Piotr has presented multiple times, I think, but he and Amanda are always there. It's just my interest, or my opinion about John is very high. So I would love to take advantage of that opportunity. And I do think Amy, having her ZBA experience specific to ZBA, seems fantastic. So those are the two that I would be interested in promoting.
So Julie, I agree with you on John's, I think he adds a lot to the CWASP and to, I think, the town board meeting when he comes and talks to us. And I was thrilled when he applied for this, for the opening. I just think that we're lucky this time. We have people with a lot of experience already. There's a big learning curve with, seeker and the zoning process. And I think the fact that we have two people who have been on the planning boards for years, I think adds a lot. And, the ZBA is very complicated. They set precedent. I've learned a lot being on the town board, talking to Stacy, who has really explained to me the importance of having really good people on the ZBA, because if they make the wrong decision, they set a huge precedent. And so having people with, experience on there really means a lot to me. And the fact that it was a unanimous decision for the people on the ZBA, boards don't often get along, and to have a unanimous decision, to me, carries some weight. And this is from someone, and I like John. We're on we've been working, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and but that's just kind of my thoughts on it.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, Dan, are you trying to speak? And your piece is opening, but I'm not sure if you're trying to speak or if you're muted.
I'm not, but I will just add that I think this is one of our more difficult decisions we've had to make in a while. And I will say, I think I can speak for everyone that whether we're voting for or against people, I genuinely really appreciate anyone who applies for any position with our town. We need a lot of volunteers, but I do think that, especially if we have multiple applicants, we should evaluate them and choose what we think is largely best and reflects the community at large.
I feel similarly to Neil. I feel like we have at least 3 excellent candidates for this position. And when I heard that the zoning board had unanimously recommended these folks, inclined to support their recommendation.
Because I don't know the two people that Ian, that you mentioned, is this something that we are deciding right now?
I would like to. This has been postponed a while, and we have some things in front of the zoning board, and we only have 3 members
Gotcha.
on the zoning board. So as the liaison, they're waiting to get back to work as a group. Not that they can't work as 3, but it makes much more sense to have a more varied and full committee.
Would this make sense to potentially break this resolution out and vote for, I think at least one candidate has full consensus from the board?
I think that makes sense. And I could understand, Alex, especially since there is this, Judy Joffe's letter with lots of signatures, and we've gotten another letter from another, I believe there was one more letter. Either way, I can understand wanting to sort of, learn more about it. So
Right.
it would seem to be respectful to all to, allow that to happen.
Yeah, I think exactly, Julie. That was just a little bit of confusion was that I would normally, Ian said, or like David said, you take the suggestion of the people who have worked in that, in the zoning board for a while, and that they understand who's working with them and they understand their needs. But I also read all the letters that were signed by community members, many of whom I know. John Gatto, I mean, that's one person who I know. But it just confused me a little bit because I feel like there's quite a few names on those letters that really support other people, so yeah.
Not necessarily a popularity contest.
Yeah,
We're
no,
voting, well, that's,
it's not.
it's not a popularity contest. We're voting for people who are qualified for the position.
It's just tough when they all look very qualified and then qualified in different ways. Some
Sounds
are
like,
qualified because they've been there a very long time and understand the ropes. Other people are qualified because they have a different point of view, maybe as far as the community zoning goes.
sounds like Len has a comment because it was great that he's here. So let's hear from him.
Good evening once again. Can you hear me? Thank you. There are several items on the agenda for the ZBA. One of them is the tower on 60 Jansen Road. There are other items that I hear will be coming down the pike soon. And I would ask more than anything that a decision be made. You've been provided with the letters of intent, resumes, and the sooner the applicants can get their feet wet, what I don't want more than anything, I would appreciate more than anything, is that on the evening of a decision that needs to be made, whether it have to be with the shot clock from 60 Jansen Road, I would really prefer the new applicants have all the information that they need so we can make an intelligent and accurate decision. Thank you.
So Len, just to be clear, you're asking that we seat 2 people today.
That's correct.
So I would like to alter my motion. So let's take these one at a time. I'd like to first ask if we can seat the first applicant, Amy Donnelly, who seems to be getting recommended by not only the ZBA chair and his team, but we're getting our citizens are also suggesting that in various letters. So do people feel good about moving forward on that motion to seat Amy Donnelly in one of these seats?
Sure.
Okay, can I get a second for Amy Donnelly's?
Second.
I'll second.
And any further discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
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 And I guess my next motion is to seat Mike Calamano, the ZBA's recommended person, in the second seat. And do I have a second on that?
I second that.
And further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Would someone like to make another motion?
I'll make a motion for John, to appoint John Gatto for ZBA, for the ZBA. Do I have a second?
I second that, Julie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we have a little discussion?
Oh, sure, of course. That was, yes, of course, that's appropriate after all in favor.
No problem. I didn't see it as intentional in any way. I'm also a little concerned. Mike Calamano is so qualified for this position, and chairs the Ulster County Zoning Board. Or is it the Ulster County Planning Board?
Ulster County Planning Board.
Does he chair the Ulster County Planning Board?
He chairs the Ulster County Planning Board. That is correct.
And spent
He's
20 years, I think spent 20 years as our planning board chair or something of that nature.
That is correct.
I think we're really, really lucky that he's willing to work in a zoning board capacity. I feel like John's doing great work and he's already helping our community in so many ways. So I feel like we have someone who's willing to wants to come back and continue to volunteer in our community. And we're saying no to someone who's so super qualified. Very concerning to me.
Yeah,
I think it's wonderful that he wants to, and and the question is about the sort of the focus on environment that that John Gatto has, and I don't know that Mike Calamano has. So that's why I feel the values of that other candidate, John Gatto, are more reflective of many of people in this town and of me. And I'm, I've just voted to the position here by the town. So
I think Mike has done a really good job for the town. And I really thank him for his service. And I think there are other capacities that if he wanted to serve the town, I'd be happy to vote for him to do that. But I'm considering the candidates in front of me, and I would support John Gatto in this case. That's not a negative statement on Mike, and I just want to be clear about that.
I think that's where I agree with Dan and Julie. It's not a negative comment on Mike Calamano. I think a lot of it is just, I feel like John Gatto has a lot of very deep interests in the environmental aspects of our community. I think it's a vision that we believe in and that we feel is the way in which Baltimore needs to develop. And that's where my support is.
Neil, if you don't have a comment, I would suggest we vote.
Yeah, I can. I'm happy to vote.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Len, you've got 2 zoning board members.
Okay, you'll notify them of the decision, please?
Neil, is that a job of the clerk or is that my job or how does that go?
I'll ask Rosanna.
Okay,
Let me know if I'm needed for that. Thank you very much, Len, for being here. Really appreciate it.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night to all.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're moving on to the review of the project budget and approval of bids for 59 North Putt. Matt Eiler is going to join us and walk us through the process. Matt?
Hey, everybody, how you doing? Good to see you again. So yeah, we received our bids a few weeks ago, and we've worked towards vetting those bids, and I want to just sort of give you an overview of the process that we did and how we turned out and what our recommendations are. So, and I think, Lou, is that you on there? I'm just seeing if
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay, Lou, stay unmuted or whatever. I'm gonna kind of go over a summary, but please feel free to interrupt me if you have something to add, and I'm sure there may be some questions for you as well. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
and Tom's on online as well. So
All right, cool. All right, so basically, what I've learned by going through this process is that the key to getting good bids is to make sure that the bid documents are crystal clear to the bidders. Because if there's ambiguity in the bids, the bidders pad the bids to handle that ambiguity. And so Palumbo Group, Lou and Tom, and also the folks at Alfondre worked together really closely to make sure that these were as good a documents as we could put together. For those of you not familiar, The bids that went out for this work to do this police and court project there were actually 5 different bid documents. There's the general contractor bid, but there's also a separate bid for the electrical work, a separate bid for the plumbing, the mechanical and HVAC, and then the site work. So each of these had to be done as a separate, clear bid package. Now, obviously, the second thing that gets you good bids is making sure you got plenty of people bidding, right? you got 3 people bidding, you got a problem. So these guys at Palumbo, not just Lou and Tom, but the people that work with them as well, were pounding the phones for weeks, making sure everybody in the whole area who's in this line of work, all the way north of Albany and all the way down in Westchester, were well aware of this. We're reviewing the bids, getting their questions answered. They even issued some addendums to make sure everything was even more clear. And so the goal on that thing is to try to get at least 5 bidders per trade. That's sort of what you're really hoping for. The other, if you don't get 5, it's a little thin. Well, these folks managed to bring in 16 general contractor bids, 10 electrical bids, 11 plumbing bids, 16 HVAC bids, and 14 site bids for a total of 67 bids. So it was quite remarkable, and it was kind of a exciting thing to be in the town's mechanics garage there, the highway department garage, and have all the bidders come in person, and it's this big dramatic opening of bids, and it was pretty exciting. That happened on October 30th. I will say that last time I was here, if you recall, I was very excited about our great credit rating. I was very excited about the interest rate we got on the bond, so I was hyping that. But I did say that I was a little nervous about the budget. I thought we'd be okay, but it was going to be a little tight. And so what we did to address that was, first of all, we just shaved some stuff out of the project. And then secondly, we did what are called alternate ads, which were breaking out certain elements of the project and having them bid on, because we needed them, but have them bid separately so we could approve the base bids and not the alts. Well, the bids came in healthy and nicely below budget, I'm very happy to say. So we are going to be able to award all the base bids. We're going to be able to award all the alternate ads that we want to. There's one that we decided to leave out, and I'll explain that in a moment. And in fact, there's going to be a contingency in the budget now. So if we have any issues that arise, we'll be okay. And we may even be able to add back some things that we had to shave out of there. Things like better landscaping, like we had a really anemic landscaping plan. So now we can do some real landscaping. Rick wants to see if we could do an energy management system. Neil has been saying all along, we don't want to see those damn green courtroom chairs anymore that are zip tied together in the current facility. So I think we have enough money for Neil to get his courtroom chairs. Anyway, that's a side discussion. We'll come back to you in a month or so with some recommendations of, some things that, that will really make it a better project, that aren't anything crazy, but just that we may want to add back in. But that's a separate discussion. The discussion of the day is to get you all to approve the bids that we received. I believe you've all seen the bid award recommendation letter from Palumbo. We spent an entire day interviewing all these bidders, and at the end of the day, I think everybody on our team is very excited about this construction team. They're great folks. I think very solid team, which is great, because if you don't have a solid team, it doesn't necessarily go so smoothly. So just quickly running through those, and I'm sure Lou or Tom may have more to add, but for the HVAC and plumbing, the low bidder was Ashley Mechanical. They won both of those 2 low bids. They're out of Kingston, and they're a reliable group, and they're well known by several people on the team that worked with them before. The low bidder for the electrical was a company called Mel, and they're out of Pearl River. They're a big company and active down there, but they've been moving up into our area. They've been diversifying into the municipal space. They're usually a private contractor, but they've done work around here at the Kingston School System and Vassar Hospital. And when you have a bidder that you haven't worked with before, you have to vet them. And they've done a lot of vetting, made a lot of calls, talked to other people who've been on site with them and done projects, and everyone's very happy with them. And then the general contractor, that one's the one that's a little more complicated. If you include all of the alternate ads, the low bidder was actually a company called Rondak, and we liked them a lot. They're well qualified. There's no issue with them at all. But what ended up happening is with the general contract, there's the base bid, and there were several of these different alternate ads. And one of them was this notion of basically chipping out and removing the entire slab and redoing the slab. And the reason that was considered was we have to kind of cut trenches into the slab to put deeper foundations for the bearing walls that are going to hold up the second floor. And so there was some concern by cutting up the slab like that, is that really the ideal solution? That's why we put it in there. But as we dug deeper into the issue, we discovered that removing the slab actually causes as many problems as it solves, in the sense that the overall structure can become deformed, or it isn't shored up when that slab's not in there. So it's really hard to make sure it all stays rigid. There's also kind of issues of tying it into the structure. And then the big sort of deciding factor was that it's really a scheduling thing. We really want to be done with this project on time, in time for the police to move out of their building in July or August. Their lease expires in August. And by not removing the slab, you can stage this work in a really cool way where, you dig some strips and you put in the footings, and then the next guys follow along with the plumbing, and the next crew follows along with the electric. If you take out the slab, all work stops until you get that out of there. Then all work stops till you pour it, do all the plumbing. Then all work stops till you pour it. So I think from a scheduling point of view, it makes a lot more sense. And also it's a little bit cheaper for us too. So you save some money. Whatever the case, when you take that, it was consensus of the group that we didn't want to keep that in. So when you take that one out, then a different bidder ends up being the low bidder, which is Darlin. And they're also very well qualified. They were the ones who worked on the middle school, so everyone's comfortable with them. And the last thing I have to say is there's one additional bid that we're not awarding tonight, which is the site work bid. And that's just because we're still in the process of qualifying the low bidders. And there's really no giant emergency to award that, because the work on that won't start till spring anyway. So we'll probably have that figured out within 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and we'll come and recommend that as well. But rest assured, regardless of who ends up being recommended on that, we have plenty of money in the budget to cover that. I'm accounting for that. So these recommendations that are being given by Palumbo have all been qualified. We're well within budget, and like I said, I think we're in great shape. Honestly, I'm super happy with how Palumbo managed the process. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. And but maybe actually first, Lou or Tom, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you did a great job of giving an overview on that, Matt. We started this process about a year ago. It was November when we really got the team together and started driving the design process. And we kept true to form on this thing. And like you said, we had a great turnout and took advantage of the market. So I'm really happy with where we're at. We do have a good line of contractors. They understand what's required here, and once we get to go, we're gonna do a hard push here to get this thing completed. So any questions, I'm here to answer.
Just a big congratulations to for all the great groundwork that was done. There's so much behind the scenes work, I'm sure, to making sure we get the turnout that you all got for these bids, and all the work that was done to prepare to get those good bids. So just congratulations on all that hard work. We know this is the finale of a lot of work on this bidding process. So thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you.
So yeah, I've been talking to you guys a bunch along the way, so I don't really have any questions, but if any other town board members have any questions or comments, if not, we can move on. The resolution is on the town's website, but I'm going to read a little bit more of it this time than I normally do, just so I make sure I get all the facts right. And Matt or Lou or anyone else, if I say something wrong, please correct me. Although I think I've tried to get this correct.
I'll follow along. I got it right here.
Okay, and so with that, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the contract awards.
Second.
That's Dan?
Yep.
Okay, and so now, therefore, it is resolved as follows. The town board of the Town of New Paltz award the general construction GC contract 01 to Darland Associates, having an address at LaGrangeville, New York, at the base bid of $2,489,000, together with the following alternatives, if any. Alternative number 2, Sally Port Structure, $84,000. Alternative 3, linoleum flooring, $38,000. Alternative number 4, veneer plywood in the courtroom, $12,213. Subtotal all alternatives, $134,213. Total contract award for GC01, $2,623,000, $623,313. The town board of the Town of New Paltz award the mechanical construction MC contract 03 to Ashley Mechanical, having an address at Kingston, New York, at a base bid of $628,400. The town board of the Town of New Paltz award the electrical EC construction 04 to Meal Electric Incorporated, having an address at Pearl River, New York, at the base bid of $614,000, together with the alternatives, with the following alternatives, if any. Alternative number 2, Sally Port Structure, $2,200. Total contract award GC04, $616,200. The town board of the Town of New Paltz award the plumbing construction PC contract 05 to Ashley Mechanical Incorporated, having an address at Kingston, New York, at the base bid of $218,665. Resolved that the supervisor, with the advice of the attorney for the town and the project executive, be and he hereby is authorized to sign the construction contract documents with all the respective contractors consistent with the foregoing resolution, including such other further and different documents as may be necessary to give full force and effect to this resolution. The question of the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote on roll call, which the result as follows: Supervisor Bertez, aye. Councilman Torres,
Aye.
Councilman Brownstein,
Aye.
Councilman Seifer Lillis,
Aye.
Councilman Bayer, Councilwoman Bayer, Person Bayer, sorry.
Aye.
The resolution was therefore duly adopted. Congratulations, everyone. We're building a building.
All right.
Great news.
So we can, just to give kind of an update to the board members, we can expect to start seeing some activity there in the next few weeks, months.
What the normal process from now is the contractors, the first thing they do is get a notice of award. The notice of award will dictate the initial documents that are required to get things going, and that's in particular the insurances and all the bonding requirements. Contracts need to be written and in place, so that's going to happen. We will set up a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting goes through all the protocol for the project. It's all the X's and O's, how we're going to drive the project. After the kickoff meeting, we talk about mobilization. No one's allowed to mobilize until all insurances and bonding are in place. So that's going to be the critical timeline. We'll be pushing to get approvals on those particular items before we let any contractors on site. Once the insurances are approved, we'll mobilize and set up site containment. The site is going to be fenced, and it's going to be gated to protect the site, and also make sure that any parties that are just wandering around don't just wander into the construction zone. So you'll see that start happening in December, and then the hard press is the demolition of the interior and start some of the rework. So
Great, very exciting. Thank you. Anyone else have any anything to say? If not, we move on. I'd like to move on to the number 3 consent agenda. So I'd like to have a motion to approve items 3A through 3C on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And so this next is the resolution declaring town the lead agency for the seeker for the water district expansion. And this is actually to add this building into Water District 1. And so this resolution has been posted on the website. May I have a motion to approve the resolution as written?
Second.
Oh, I'd make so thank you. I'll make a resolution to move it as written, and Dan seconds. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the next is a resolution authorizing the preparation of the map, plan, and report. This is just, these are the official documents required to expand the water district. You have to mark out the locations and have a report. And so we've put all this on the website. And so I'd like to make a resolution to approve this resolution as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so then next is, we're on number 7. We deleted number 6 because we had that twice, but number 7 is we wanted to have a discussion about possible adding to the no parking areas in the town code. And so Alex, do you want to say anything? And David, I think we have, we need to be very specific about, the areas by, the feet and the area and the north, south. I think Kathy may have passed around the laws when we did this before, just to give people an idea of how specific we need to be with it. And, we've had some people in town that want no parking in front of their houses. And so that's what we're trying to do here. And, the goal is we put those areas together. We run them by Chris, run them by the police, run them by the attorney, and then we would set a public hearing and have a hearing and then take the vote.
Yeah, I think that's it, Neil. It ended up, like you said, there are quite a few like kind of hotspot areas, but it ended up being 3 that are had been okayed by Chris and had been okayed by Chief. And one of them David brought up, which was the White Oaks across from the gatehouse. The other one was to the left and the right of the bridge here on Springtown. And the other one was an area that is being used for parking that was never a parking area to begin with. Again, we ran those by everybody to make sure that they were okay by both Chris and Chief. And what we need now is more specific language. Chris was saying, and the law is that we have to state exactly how many feet so that the no parking signs can be placed in the right places. So that's the next step, is actually being really careful and measuring out exactly where that has to be. So I'm happy to take that on.
I just want to say something about this, and that is, it's very clear to me that safety is the concern here. And, with the influx of people this fall, especially, and in the summer, I'm sure, in the spring too, people are parking all over the place. And, especially that Springtown by the bridge, I pass there all the time. And Alex and I have discussed how, the cars block the drivers from being able to see the people who are coming out of the, essentially the wooded path, especially from the west. So children on bikes, it's just literally an accident waiting to happen. But I would be very much in favor of that, because when one person sees a car there or 2 cars there, everybody starts to fill in, and that's just not something we should just ignore, I think, anymore. And I know the other spots, I'm sure, are causes for safety concerns as well. Just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Julie. I think that's the main part of it, is really safety. So,
Thank you, Alex, for taking this on. I really appreciate you leading the way on this. Can I just give some notes on White Oaks Lane? So the White Oaks Lane, I've checked with the neighbors, and they have a little bit of a neighborhood association, and they've done some voting of their own. And they want on each side of, on the east and west side of White Oaks Lane, a one sign at the intersection of White Oak and Gatehouse. And then believe the rule is, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, 200 feet from that point, going into White Oaks Lane, toward the end of White Oak, so just two signs on each side, one at the intersection, one at the, 200 feet later, on both sides. So total of 4 signs.
You can really do what you want. The rule is anything more than 200 feet, that's the maximum spacing you can have on the sign. So every 200 feet, there would have to be a sign.
Yep.
If you're not doing the whole road, then signs have to be put in with arrows. So you'd have a no parking at the beginning of White Oaks, with an arrow facing to the north. Then you'd measure out if the 200 feet is what you want, or the people want. You'd place another sign to the north with an arrow facing south. So that area in between would be the designated no parking area.
So no way for that second sign, Chris, to be the arrow pointing to the north also, even though you only get 200 feet of enforcement?
No, then you'd have to mark down how much further you'd go after that. Because then you'd be assuming that the whole road would be done. It's the whole point of when it comes to enforcement on where people can be parked, where someone would possibly get a ticket. That's why they direct us to use the arrows. On Springtown, we're really pushing the envelope. Being it's a county road, the only place that we could possibly put a sign is on either side of the rail bed, facing one another. So let's say the rail bed's 60 feet across, which I don't even think it's that far. You could put one on one side of the road, one on the other, with arrows pointing toward each other. To the north or the south would be anybody's parking. So all we're pretty much doing, and that's because the town has a right of way. We own the rail trail, we own the bed, but that's all we own. So you're only really telling people with the one on Springtown that you can't park
in front of the rail trail.
Right in front of the rail trail, to the left or to the right.
Right.
They can do whatever they want, and we can't post that.
I wonder if
that's the worst part, actually.
Well, I wonder if that makes it even worse, because if you have signs and they're just pointing at each other saying no parking here, if then you're just going to increase people parking everywhere else.
Right. Now, we could approach the county and ask if they would like, if we could do something there. But we don't. The way I follow the law, and I mean, I've been wrong before, but we don't have this jurisdiction on another entity's road. In this case, it's the county's.
Chris, do you know who I would get in touch with in the county to ask them about that? Or
I'll have to see who does the enforcement and ask. I can get you to the county, the people I deal with, and I'm sure they can get you to the people that would make that decision. Ultimately, I don't know how their process for doing that. Be honest with you.
Yeah, if you could shoot that to me, that would be great.
Okay.
Because I think the two things that I think Chief was very specific about, and I think Chris, you underlined that, is that it has to be very specific, because if they're going to go and they're going to enforce it, there has to be a very clear definition of where the parking is and where it isn't, where it ends and where it begins.
Right, and that's something we do with signage, so that won't be a problem with the PD. You all just have to come up with, if it's over the 200 feet, we have to put another sign.
Right.
Because that's what the law states. We can put more signs within the 200 feet, but we're trying to do it with less signs.
Why are we trying to do with less signs? I was wondering that, Chris, because I mean, they're unsightly, but I did read some complaints. I think it was on Facebook by a resident or a person who probably is local, whatever, who said that they they were parking on Craigswood and they didn't see any signs because, and I can imagine you really can't see 200 feet sometimes if there's a curve, you know, or it's not at least obvious that there's another sign down there, or that there's any sign near where you are if you happen to be, you know, sort of near the middle of the 200 feet. What's the reason to not put up one every 100 feet?
Well, it was originally when we were looking at like all these side roads off of Gatehouse, Butterville. The biggest concern, now this goes back a year or two, was that you're going to have it's going to be littered with traffic signs, reflective traffic signs. People didn't want to ruin the view. In Craigswood's instance, the only place that has actually no parking is the cul-de-sac at the end, which even the law reads. And that was done before me actually, because people would park there and the school buses couldn't turn around once you get so far back. And I'm sure there's something in the law about line of sight. You have to be able to see it. You know, it's one of those things, if you have to walk up and read the sign, that's on the people parking there. You know, yes, I saw something. Otherwise, I mean, you could argue that there'd be a sign every 50 feet. I didn't see that. You know, so it's one of those things you had to be aware of where you're going, but they also can't be hidden. They have to be in good shape. They have to be the correct type of sign, the correct height, with rules like that. That's what makes it enforceable. But I wouldn't get stuck so much on it has to be like 101 feet, and that's where we mark it. It's where where you all want it. And then I put in the signs, to make that legal.
So I guess my next step is just to get very specific wording as to where the signs are going to be, right, Chris? And
well,
then, yeah.
I'm sorry. In Coffee Road for the parking, it was the end of the road, and I put 100 feet back so people wouldn't park right at the terminus of the de facto parking area where we turn around when we plow, or the school bus would turn around.
Right.
So you want to leave a little leeway. You can't park in the parking spot or what looks like a parking spot, which isn't, but you'll park right on. You give someone an inch, they'll take a mile. You got to move them back a little bit.
Right.
With White Oak, some people I'm sure would just park past that. But from my discussion, or from my understanding from David, people didn't mind that. People at the end of the road were fine with people parking there. It's just at the beginning. So
they just couldn't get enough agreement from everyone at the end, and this is what they've been able to agree on. And if it has to be revisited, I told them we're not going to revisit it probably for another year. That this is not going to be like month to month kind of like stuff. So you got to make a decision. And I'm writing an email to them right now saying they got to decide if they want 200 feet of coverage on each side or 400 feet of coverage, and that they should let us know what they want.
And just to bear in mind too, as we're doing this, you're probably looking at a $70 cost per sign and post and hardware. So I have no problem doing it, but after a while, it gets expensive.
That's why we don't put them every 100 feet.
Yeah.
Well, David, if you could get that information once they all agree, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll get the right wordage put in, and you and I can work on, where they want them, and then we'll send that back to Neil.
Yep, Alex, I'll get you the exact their exact plan. I'm giving them a very specific choice, and then I'll send you what they choose.
Okay, great. And and Chris, if I'll just send me an email letting me know how to get hold of the county people. I'll give them a buzz and just see what they say.
Yeah, I'll have that for you tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. So this next one is number 8. It's a resolution establishing fees for Chapter 92, hotels and motels, a law we passed last week. We just didn't have an application fee associated with it. And so we've posted this on the website. We're charging, I think it's $1,500 for less than 50 rooms and $3,000 for more than 50 rooms. It's the same as the neighboring town as their fees. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the number 9 is, we have a spending freeze now, so all spending requires town board to approve expenses after review. The list of open requisitions is for regular 2020 budget lines. The latest expense report given to the board last week shows the status of those lines through the end of October. The board can approve or deny or continue to hold based on their review. We have a motion to approve the open requisitions listed in item 9. And then we can discuss that.
Second.
Discussion? If anyone has any issues, or if not, we can just approve the requisitions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next one, number 10, is we have a list of held requisitions for escrow projects before the planning board. Either we already do not have enough funds to cover the expenses, and or the listed expenditures would cause the escrow to be below the minimum amount required to keep the project before the planning board. Applicants have been billed for their minimum balances, but although some funding did come, a check came in today for one of them, so we can pay for some of them, but payment under these invoices, if we don't eventually get payment, we could put a lien on the property, or the town then just eats it. So it's kind of up to the board. Do we want to pay our consultants, or do we want to hold off a little bit to see if we get a check from these applicants? And so, any discussion? So my preference here would be that we maybe wait a little bit on 410. We pay 431 and we pay 432. Those are for Rick Golden. He's a regular consultant for us. I think that we owe him. It's also not that much, and I think we should get reimbursed for those. And actually, for the larger of those, the check that came in today should cover that, so I'm not too worried about it. And then I think maybe we should hold off a little bit on 410, 455, and 456 in case we don't get money in to pay for them, and then we can decide.
Yeah, I agree with that plan, Neil. I think we want to take care of Rick right away. He's doing a lot of work for us right now. And I just want to ask, the executive session that's following, that's still planned, right? That we have some executive session, because there's something I'd like to add to that executive session regarding a legal matter.
Yes.
Okay.
So if there's no more discussion, my motion would be that we pay R000, was it one? R0000431 and R0000432. And we wait on 410, 455, and 456.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the November warrant in the amount of $1,349,742.63.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I guess the next is we're going to go into executive session, and I'm going to pause, then we'll come back out. I don't think we'll be in there long, but you never know. I'll put everyone in the waiting room, and then we'll come out and adjourn the meeting. So I'm going to put everyone in the waiting room. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us are here. I'm going to pause the record. Did anyone second my motion to go into executive session?
I don't think we did, actually.
Okay, so I'll do it now. It's still recording. So I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I have placed everyone in the waiting room, but you guys will see this on film later on. And now I'm going to pause the recording. It is 8:28. Okay, it is 8:51, and I am going to make a motion to come out of executive session and let everyone back into the, I've let everyone back into the room, and I'm making a motion to come out of executive session, and we are not taking any action.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye-bye.
See you later, everyone.
Aye.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Right.